John Clay Wolf Show. Here's what's going on in the Wolf Pack.
I didn't want to call Bobo and have to have a confrontational.
Just make a change?
Yeah, because you're so bitchy.
We do it all the time.
You're so bitchy, Bobo.
You always
do you
want to
realize how bitchy you are? And I don't want to fight with you.
You know, you calling me bitchy would be like me calling you a fat bastard. You know, that's projection, dude.
The John Clay Wolf Show, every Saturday morning.
The Wall Street Journal says Elon Musk's drug use is worrying executives and board members at businesses he runs. The Journal cites witnesses saying Musk has used LSD, cocaine, ecstasy and psychedelic mushrooms, often at private parties.
If you're gonna keep up with Elon Musk cocaine, that would probably explain why his tweets are so strange. Cocaine. He's so rich, he's no bitch, he just switched to cocaine. If you're headed to Mars, pack up some Xanny bars with cocaine. He don't pay for no trips on his own rocket ship. Cocaine. THC, LSD, ecstasy, and cocaine.
Now,
He's so
back to the Clay Wolf Show.
He just switched to cocaine. Oh, God. Yes, thanks very much for your concern. Now, I'm off to do a little more cocaine, so join me or piss off. Oh, God.
Keith Richards. Piss off?
So a little background on that, too?
Yeah.
I was walking up last night.
Why am I listening to that? What is it?
Bobo's production there, right?
Right.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Walking up the stairs, and I hear this. I'm like, is Bobo doing rails right now? What's going on here? I had no idea, because, you know, when you're hearing production, you don't hear the music playing in the background or anything like that.
You just heard him.
Oh, yeah. I'm just hearing him sniffing and stuff.
So is Elon Musk doing coke?
It was reported in the Wall Street Journal. This has gotten out. He's been a pot guy for a while. You know, he smoked with Rogan on his show. Mm-hmm. And people who know Elon and like Elon weren't telling stories out of school, but they're saying, yeah, he's I've seen him getting into ecstasy, and there are rumors about ketamine and now cocaine.
Yeah.
And he's doing.
I could see him just getting on the air and admitting it. Oh yeah, I do. He just didn't give it. He didn't.
No, that's the kind of guy he is.
Right.
But it's just a rumor, and I thought, what a great opportunity to do something Clapton.
Have we ever had anybody coke out at the office?
No.
Close.
Do you remember
Well,
that?
yeah, actually, okay.
Do you remember that one guy that had a man bun that got in a fight with Biggs?
Yeah.
And we ran him off. He kind of struck me as a guy that was a little tuned up, a little too high.
Yeah, he might have been. I don't like coke out almost like OD. We've had somebody OD on the floor. Remember?
From what?
Pills.
What kind of pills?
It was Xanax and whatever else in his system. You don't remember that story?
Is it the guy that died?
No, he didn't die. No, it was that kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. He's no longer with the firm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Captain Pajama.
Firm, yeah, Mr. Pajamas.
Mr. Pajama Bottoms?
Yeah. All of a sudden, I turn around, and he's at the keyboard, and his
Yes, I do
face
remember
is
that.
drooling and stuff, and I had to put him down on the ground, and somebody had to do CPR. It was crazy.
We had to do CPR on him?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. To wake him getting back up, and then the ambulance come. I mean, it was...
Who saved his life?
A gentleman who no longer works for us either.
His dad?
No, it wasn't his dad. His dad wasn't there.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was nuts. That was back in the good old
Do you
days.
have the clip? Do you have the clip of Man Bun fighting Lieutenant Dan, the one-legged man?
I don't have the full clip, but I do have his reaction to it, where we got, "Get you some, bitch!"
So we've been using this, Richard Rollins on the air with us from Gas Monkey Garage forever. And when I saw that GYSOT, I was like, what? And then I looked it up and get you some of that. And we've been doing, this has been our saying forever.
Get you some, bitch.
Get you some, bitch. One more time.
Get you some, bitch.
And I just started laughing because you have been around a lot of the Dallas car dealers that I was around, and get you some of that. I used to hear that a lot, and that's kind of a Catronio and Stanley. Have y'all been saying that for a long time?
Long time. That actually, I kind of rubbed off of me from Dennis Collins, and he ran with Catroni on Stanley and all them.
Right.
And so we were saying it, and especially, when you get a good deal, get you some of that. Bitch! And we'd do all that. And so one day I was just sitting around. I said, I wonder if anybody's ever trademarked that. So I called my attorney, and next thing I know, I trademarked it. So now I give Catronio and Collins a hard time. I'm like, you can't use that, dude. I own that.
I did the same thing with I did the same thing with Give Me the VIN. When I came up with that as a company name, I trademarked that. Send me the VIN, text me the VIN, because everybody just cuts everybody's balls all the time. And if something works, they'll just go right after you. And I knew that Give Me the VIN was going to work, so I have to.
So I got back on Dennis. So he got the Texas license plate GYSOT before I could snag it. So he's like, look at that. So I made imitation gas monkey plates that you can buy in my store that say GYSOT. They're so good at fakes that the toll booths read them. So
it goes to him?
Yeah.
That's get you some bitch.
He got one from Chicago the other day, running a Texas plate that says GYSOT.
That's great.
What's the craziest? Oh, I've only got a minute left, man, until the next seg. I was going to ask what the craziest car that did y'all, when you used to go to these people's houses and buy these cars, did you ever have anybody go weird on you?
Oh, I've had some weird stuff happen out there. I mean, I've had to sit on people's couch inside their house while the chickens walk in and out of the dog door and stuff. And, I've gotten there and they've decided that I can't even open the barn door. I can't go in. I'm like,
oh, they don't want to sell it now.
Yeah,
they don't want to show it.
They don't want to show it. They don't want anybody to know where they're at.
Well, the guy that I bought those Mustangs from yesterday did not want to be on film. He did not want anybody to see it.
Yeah, you get some of that. And then the other guys, the old timers, they want cash.
Right.
And I'm like, I'll give you cash. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to report it the way that the deal went down. And if you choose not to tell the government that I gave you cash, that's your problem.
Right. You have to pack heat if you have cash on you, though.
Oh, we do.
Plenty.
We're from Texas.
Fully auto, right. Yeah. 800-800-7234, 800-800 radio. Dallas, we're going to lose you right now. Houston, we're going to lose you right now. Denver, I think, is still on for the next hour. And then the West Coast is up next. We will be right back. Go to jcwshow.com, jcwshow.com if you want to watch or stream the next hour. And remember, givemethevin.com. Rich Rollins, thanks for coming in the studio today. And come out again when it's sunny and pretty, and we'll have more time and have a little fun.
Absolutely.
And wish us luck at Barrett Jackson tonight. God knows we're going to need it.
ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. Welcome into the bullpen with the producers here of ESPN Radio. Sean Mapes, found on Twitter at Sean A. Mapes. Andrew Carlson, found on Twitter at Carlson Radio. I am Brian McDonald, found on Twitter with the much less professional handle of @Sack by BMAC. And returning, Johnny Two Jobs. Johnny Belmer is back on the bullpen after about a 3-month hiatus?
About 3.5. What's going on, boys?
3.5 months, and you're found on Twitter at Third Coast Johnny. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So now I told Johnny before the show that he would have to come up with the Mount Rushmore +1. I'm not sure how the maiden voyage would go, but last week with Cam went pretty well.
Yeah,
it was his first time. So you guys have any expectations for this first Mount Rushmore +1 from Johnny?
Cam maybe proved that it's not that hard, and that we're really been
we've been overthinking it.
We've been overthinking it. We've been giving Josh Travans too much credit. So
that's what this is. We're taking credit back from Josh. Okay,
maybe he's a system producer. We don't know.
Andrew, you got some expectations or some advice to give to Johnny Belmer over here for his first Mount Rushmore +1?
Yeah, the advice is don't screw up. So just be careful over there, John.
Wow.
I wouldn't put any expectations on it.
Okay. Wow, setting the bar low. Okay, that's fair.
Set the bar low so we can hop right over it.
That's right.
Damn right.
All right, well, if you want to join in the conversation today, we're going to have some Texans talk here to lead off the show, but we'll get into the Astros and the Rockets before the show is over. Give us a call on the HRMP listener line at 713-780-3776. And right now in this first segment, I wanted to talk about, as I mentioned, the Houston Texans. And I think right now, as we stand on January 27th, D'Amico, in his after the season press conference, his exit interview, pretty much gave away what the Texans, I mean, things could change. You could look at prospects and change your mind on somebody, but I think they've already given away who and what they want to go after, but both with their free agent money and their draft picks. And we're going to hear some audio right now. First, D'Amico talking about how important it is to improve the run game going into next season.
The running game will be significant for us to improve upon. I think as you see as you go throughout this game, especially in the postseason, right? Teams that win games, you got to be able to run the football, right, and sustain it. And we weren't able to accomplish that versus the Ravens, and it showed up. So we have definitely areas to improve, many different areas, but run game is one of those areas for sure.
All right, so, I mean, no arguments there. There were definitely some struggles with the run game from, different parts of the season, especially in that Ravens game. The other thing D'Amico mentioned in his exit interviews that we'll hear right now is that how important the defensive front is to him, and that they're actually going to invest a ton into that. D'Amico gave it away right here.
The front, again, is everything for me, and we'll have to invest a ton of resources into the front. Right? If you want to play good defense, right, your front has to be elite. And that's why I envision us playing elite defensive football, and we have to get better there. And to get better, you have to invest the resources there up front. So that's what we'll do. That's where our focus is heading into the offseason, is to make sure our front, right, gives us an opportunity to win some games.
Now, I would get some people listening to this like, well, of course he's talking about, areas of need. Like, why are you putting that much stock into it that they're basically giving away their free agency and draft plans? And for some coaches, I think it is just coach speak to basically talk about every position and talk about where they can improve. But we've seen in D'Amico's short tenure now with the Houston Texans, just this last offseason, or the offseason before this last season, D'Amico talking about, and there's a quote, I believe it was around the time of the NFL Combine, maybe it's a little bit later because the article I found was from April 4th, so it's probably a little bit later in the process, but it's from DJ Bieniemy, who's on this station with Paul Gallant every week and does great work for ESPN, and he was talking about what the Texans' plans were in the NFL draft, specifically with quarterback, and the quote is, we have a really good to a couple of good quarterback prospects at the top of the draft, and we want to add a young quarterback to our team. We think that will be the right thing to do for our team. We feel like we have a good nucleus of players. I still want to add some competition to the quarterback position. And this year, there's two good guys at the top we've looked at and that we value pretty highly. So we're excited about the draft to be at that number 2 spot. Pretty much giving away, they're taking Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at the number 2 position, whoever doesn't go number 1. So
and then they zag. No, wait, they didn't.
They did zag a little bit, but not in the way that didn't take C.J. Stroud. So I think in that quote, when you read it, look, short tenure, we have one example, the smallest possible sample size we could possibly work off of. But D'Amico seems kind of straightforward. And to me, those quotes, Andrew, him talking about the run game and the defensive front, sounded pretty straightforward. That's what D'Amico wants to address.
He's a straight shooter, and he has been that way in all of his interactions with the media thus far. And I'll take it one step further with what he said after getting hired on last year, BMAC, is that he said the defensive line is the engine room of the team. I specifically remember that quote where I think it might have been in his introductory press conference where he talked about the defensive line and how important it is as the sort of thing that makes everything else on a team go and work properly and work the way that he wants it to. And so that's going back all the way to when he was initially hired, where he's talking about how important it is that you have a very strong core of your team at the line, especially the defensive line. So I'm going to be shocked if they don't invest heavily on the defensive line, both in the draft and in free agency. My only question, honestly, is going to be, does Jonathan Grenard come back? Is he part of that investment, or are they looking outside of the building in addition to him?
Yeah, and that would really show the priority as far as how much money you're willing to commit to it, how many resources you're willing to commit to the line of scrimmage on defense. And that to me is more telling because, Texans Twitter, the second after they lost, you go to the spot track and you look how much cap space they have, and you're like, help is on the way. $70 million in
we can fix
money.
Everything at once.
Yes, but if you're giving 25 of that to Jonathan Grenard, then all of a sudden that's...
And oh, by the way, you have to keep some of that for your rookies.
Yes, you have to keep some of that for your rookies as well. So that is where it becomes a situation of where do they really want to line up the money cannon and shoot it at? Do they want a high-priced edge rusher, or do they want a high-priced wide receiver? Are they looking to spread it out, get more bodies at and have a deep defensive line room, or do they want someone to pair with Will Anderson?
Yeah, and that'll be interesting, especially as it pertains to Grenard, because I think people, like you pointed out, Sean, they see the total the salary cap money with being like $70 million, and they get, kind of the pie in the sky dreams and the money signs in their eyes.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like thinking that we
Dream team.
Yeah, exactly. The Vince Young
okay,
talking about the
calm
Eagles.
down. I know you got the Longhorn sweater on.
Just a heads up, no matter what the Texans do this offseason, I will call them a dream team.
I will hold you to that. At some point, the bullpen after the draft, I'm going to make sure to set you up to call them a dream team. But I think people look at that number and think they could, basically solve everything that they want. They can get T. Higgins, and they can get a star running back, and they get a pass rusher. But if they sign Jonathan Grenard, I think, and plus the money you're going to have to allocate to the rookies, I think you're looking at maybe one more significant signing, and that's pretty much it. So, or if you don't sign Grenard, 2 significant signings. So this isn't a case of where you're going to just walk into a dream team once we get to September at the start of the season.
Yeah, the roster overhaul that I think a lot of people are anticipating this upcoming offseason probably is not going to be as drastic as people think. Like, if you think the Texans are going to be bringing in 5 Pro Bowlers with all this money that they have, I have another thing to tell you. That's just simply not going to happen.
Well, I mean, Pro Bowl, you set the bar low.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley. We could bring
There's
in
one
5
right
Tyler
there.
The Texans could bring in
Couple
5
running
Tyler
backs.
Huntleys.
Couple Pro Bowl running backs.
All right, fine. If that's the direction we're going to take the show today, then that's the direction we're going to take
Run
the
the
show today.
wishbone,
Yeah. But
I'm for it.
I do think that
Establish it, Sean.
Got to.
You know what? I'm just going to let you guys take over that. I'm not going to make my
All
point
right.
anymore.
That's
I'm
fair.
not going to make my point.
Withholding information from the listener.
Yeah, well, wouldn't be the first time Andrew withheld information from the list. I don't know where I'm going.
Was that a veiled threat there?
I don't know. That didn't make any sense. That didn't make any sense. I was trying to roll with it. It didn't work. I'll take the L on that one. But getting specifically back to what D'Amico said, I assume you guys agree with me. I mean, what we saw in the Ravens game, like, there's a difference. Like, when people will talk about, but the Texans' run defense is really good. It ranks, 4th or whatever in rushing yards allowed per game. True, but the Ravens and the elite of the elite, the guys playing this weekend, are a whole nother level. And I think we saw pretty clearly, to D'Amico's point in the Ravens game, the rushing offense and the rushing defense really have to take a huge step for them to get to this weekend next year.
Yeah, and that's why the Ravens game, not just with the rushing defense, but frankly, all over the field, you saw the difference, not just in the high-end talent, but also the depth of talent on between these two teams. And so that's when, to go back to the vaunted $70 million in cap space that they have, to me, I don't want to throw that at two, a Mike Williams or a Mike Evans and some other premier pass rusher. It's like I would be more in favor of spreading that around with, a few high-level free agents, but not the top of the market.
Yeah, I mean, and you're 100% right with that, Sean, because you look at how that game played out. In the first half, I understand that the Ravens didn't play their best football, but the game was competitive. What happened in the second half is they were able to just wear the Texans down because the Texans just simply did not have the bodies to continue playing at a high enough level to really compete with what the Ravens were putting out on the field. And if you can increase the talent level slightly, I mean, maybe a little bit more than slightly. If you can increase the talent level by a half-decent margin, but then also at the same time add a lot of depth this offseason versus just trying to go for that massive home run swing top-end talent, but then you still have the same depth issues when you hit the postseason. And if the Texans have a rash of injuries like they did this year, you're going to find yourself in probably a relatively similar situation that you did this past season.
Yeah, and look, even the Texans, as they ended the season, needed help in those areas. But we also have to remember, as we've mentioned, Grenard, obviously, your Singletary's a free agent. Sheldon Rankins is a free agent. Barnett and Jerry Hughes on the offensive line. If you're talking about improving the offensive line to then improve the run game, you're talking about a lot of depth pieces with Fant and Heck and Quesenberry. And obviously, Quesenberry didn't play this year. And Dieter. So there's a lot of guys that even amongst the guys you went into the season already needing that improvement, you're losing guys from that group as well. So that makes the gap there even more. Sean, I don't know if you want to expand upon this, but when you're talking about spreading around the money, it seems like that would fit into like kind of the Casario model where Sheldon Rankins 1-year deal, Jimmy Ward 2-year deals. Is that kind of what you're talking about? These veteran contract 1- and 2-year deals that you'd like to see the Texans do?
Yeah, just to build up a level of just NFL level players and just get as many NFL level players as you can. Obviously, Casario did that his first couple years running the team when there was absolutely no NFL level players on the team.
There were a couple.
I mean, Grenard was on the team, but he wasn't playing like this year's
Larry
Grenard.
Tunsil was on the team.
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
Larry Tunsil was on.
Sometimes
was on the team unless his thumb hurt. Then he missed 9 weeks. But that was more of just, hey, we need roster spot. We need to fill roster spots on this team. This is going to be a little bit more, or I would hope is going to be a little bit more targeted in what they need. And another thing is the Texans aren't going to have to pay the loser tax that we talk about in NFL free agency.
That'll be big.
They're coming off a 10-win season. They have a young quarterback that, we heard Devontae Adams talk about it just this week about how much he loves C.J. Stroud. Seems like every 2 weeks someone's talking about how much, an NFL player.
I think Justin Jefferson is
talking about how much they love.
Too.
And so that's a little bit of a difference between having to sign guys to come play for a 3-win team with Davis Mills under center as opposed to a team that won the division with C.J. Stroud under center.
And that's probably going to be the biggest difference this offseason is the fact that people want to come and play in Houston with C.J. Stroud under center. And it's not just the fact that C.J. Stroud's under center. I understand that these are betting odds that I'm about to cite, and at the end of the day, they truly mean nothing. But the Houston Texans, according to DraftKings, currently are tied for the 8th best odds to win the Super Bowl in 2025 next season, which if you had told me that, a year ago, 2 years ago, that coming into the 2025 NFL season or the 2024-2025 NFL season, that the Texans would have the 8th best odds in the NFL, I would have called you all sorts of crazy. So to have that as not only do you have the young quarterback and the inspiring head coach that everybody wants to play for, but you legitimately have a solid enough nucleus that people can envision coming here and winning a Super Bowl is not totally out of the realm of possibility. And that just opens up so much more in the free agency market versus, hey, we've got a preacher running the team and we're going to have to pay you 50% above market rate if you want to come here.
Talking about analytics.
Yeah.
It's so definitely a much easier sell. And I just a heads up for the future, Andrew, I'm going to need a Mount Rushmore +1 of things the crazy words that you would call people if they made that point before the season.
I can do that today.
You can do that today? All right, very good. All right, coming up next on the Bullpen, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5, more Texans conversation, taking a look ahead to what we talked about in this last segment, the Texans salary cap numbers. Who are some veterans the Texans could cut to add even more salary cap space for them to work with? Plus, taking a look ahead at free agency in the draft, talking about some of the guys we hope they end up with. That when the Bullpen returns, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, you're back inside the Bullpen with the producers from ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Wait, who let those guys up here? Security. That's them right there. Right there.
I don't know what to make of Johnny Belmer being gone for 3 months, and the very first rejoin he plays is one where Spencer's trying to kick us out of the building.
Yeah.
Should I take something from it? Do we have hostility that I didn't know about, Johnny?
No, I love you guys. No,
Okay.
it's just
I don't
it's the
know.
one I clicked on. You know, I know hearing that over and over again's gotta.
Yeah,
Can we get
it
some?
wears on you a little bit.
Just
Can
the
we
first
petition
one.
for some new ones from Spencer?
I thought that was a good segment.
I mean, if he comes
Belmer's
back with
out
it
there
again
with the
next commercial break, I'm really going to start to think we have some
I'll take it
hostilities.
personally.
Keep playing it, John. Keep playing it. I like that one.
Heel turn Carlson never fails. Never fails. All right, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. Before the end of the show, we will get Sean's Royal Rumble thoughts. That is a promise. Sean is
Guaranteed.
Sean
We'll have
around
some
the
thoughts.
office is known as sports entertainment Sean.
Yes.
Everyone knows that no one follows sports entertainment like Sean Mapes, so we will make sure we get his Royal Rumble pick before the show's over. But again, if you want to join in on the conversation about the Texans, the Astros, the Rockets, or of course ask Sean for his Royal Rumble picks, you can call us on the HRMP listener line, 713-780-3776. So we mentioned last segment, the Texans, the salary cap space they had to work with, and how maybe we should temper some of our expectations about how much they can actually spend, how many big free agents they could bring in. So I think the follow-up to that conversation is obviously like, well, could they add some more salary cap space in? And looking at some of these veterans that I think could be potential salary cap casualties, I think there definitely is some money there to put into the Texans' wallet there when they go shopping in free agency. So we'll start at the top of the list. Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, I believe he's definitely in his 30s by now. $5 million.
Thank you for your service, Robert.
See ya.
$5 million the Texans could save on the cap. It's unanimous, right? He is absolutely. I mean, look, the Texans have wide receiver depth issues. I guess you could hope that
That's part of the issues.
It's right, exactly. But keeping him doesn't solve the issue. I think was the point I was going.
That's a much nicer way to say
Yeah. I don't know if it's depth issues more. It's just a talent issue with the depth that they do have. So like
the talent of the depth starting at the third wide receiver. Yes. Because we have no problems with Nico and Tank. It's
great.
It's everything that comes after that is all a huge question mark. So yeah, fully unanimous there. Robert Woods got to go. Next up, Jimmy Ward. $4 million.
I'm not sure.
I mean, they don't quite have the same safety, depth. Is you're creating a problem if you release him, but he's also hurt a lot. He's over 30.
That one can go either way for me, honestly. I would probably err on keeping him just as a veteran presence, years with D'Amico Ryans type of move, and freeing up $4 million isn't quite. If he was making 9 or 10, if it was like 9 or 10 million,
to still a Branhamism. I don't know. Would that work? Branhamism. Jeremyism.
Branhamism
is saving $4 million, or are the mound visits, quote unquote, worth $4 million?
Exactly.
Is his veteran leadership in the locker room worth?
He's also a good player when he's out there. He's just not
how
out there.
How many games did he play?
He played 10 games this
10
year.
games?
Was
10
on
out of
IR,
17?
so yeah, he didn't make
Plus
it.
he didn't play the playoffs.
He didn't play in the playoffs, so we're talking about 10 out of 19. And he was decent to start the season, but I don't know if you can legitimately rely on the leadership of someone who's going to be out there for optimistically 60 to 65% of the snaps, for over the course of an entire season. I just don't know if Jimmy Ward. I understand that only saving $4 million, you may be just saying you're kind of pinching pennies at this point, but I'm guessing that you can find some better value somewhere on the safety market than Jimmy Ward with what he's doing at his age, because it's not like he's got a sterling injury record going back to his time at San Francisco.
This isn't a 1 year.
This isn't just like a one-off where, he was hurt this year, but typically he's been just the picture of perfect health. No, Jimmy Ward has had health issues for the majority of his time in San Fran, and then on top of that, he's only getting older. So you're not magically assuming that he's going to get healthier as time goes on.
Okay. You sold me. Beat it, Jimmy Ward. Hope you rented, didn't buy.
I this is probably not entirely fair to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Part of the reason I think a lot of us were excited that Jimmy Ward was coming here is because the potential help in growth and impact he could have on Jalen Petrie. Didn't really notice that this year. So, I mean, going to the idea of the veteran leadership, it's not like Petrie took a leap this year. He arguably went back. So, I too would go ahead and send Jimmy Ward packing. Let's tag these two quarterbacks together here. So Davis Mills at $2.99 million, Case Keenum, go Cougs, at $1.9 million. I feel like you want one of them back as a backup quarterback who knows the system, but I don't see any reason to keep both. Do you guys have a lean as to which one you would keep, or do you disagree that you should cut both or keep both?
I think keeping Keenum is probably the
Go
move.
Cougs?
Yeah, because of Go Cougs, really. I mean, I don't feel like I'd be allowed on Houston radio if I advocated for the keeping of Davis Mills and the cutting of Case Keenum, especially sitting next to Andrew Carlson.
I honestly might lean towards just keeping them both because as much as I love Case and what he has done in the city as a football player, especially for my university, that arm is shot. Like that arm has nothing left in it, and we saw it in that Browns game. Like
we got one good game.
He's
got one good game a year.
If you have any
and
level,
even that one game, he had a pick six.
Exactly. Even if you have any level of decent competition across you on the other side of the field, with Case Keenum back there, you are probably not going to have a shot to win the game. And I'm not saying that Davis Mills is like incredible compared to that, but he at least has the arm to get the ball places. And in a backup quarterback, hopefully we're getting CJ for all 17 games next season. But I legitimately feel that I would feel better with Davis Mills under center than Case Keenum next season. And with that being the case, I would say just keep them both. Let Keenum be the veteran mentor that he's continued to be for this team over the course of this past season, and let it ride.
Okay, I was thinking more of Keenum would still be the third guy.
Okay, yeah.
You would just get a new
Okay, so would you be saving money in that case with your backup?
That would be the thought. That would be the thought of maybe getting another
I don't know
late-round young guy or something like that.
I mean,
or a second draft type of guy where he's a free agent.
If you draft a quarterback as like technically the second guy, but merely the third
stick.
guy. But I mean, with Davis Mills just under $3 million, you're not getting a backup quarterback on the free agent market for $3 million. So you really wouldn't be saving anything. It's really, I guess, more so, do you like these players as your backups or not? Because I don't think it saves you a lot of money to actually cut them. So if you're fine with them playing, then, and I think it'll be interesting to see, because I agree with a lot of your points, Andrew. Like Davis Mills has the much livelier arm at his age than Case Keenum at his age. But it seems like the coaching staff doesn't really care. They still would rather put Case out there.
That's the thing. I said Case Keenum would be the third string and you get into second string. That was demoting Case Keenum in the eyes of the Texans coaching staff.
I think if they had their choice, well, it is their choice, but I think they might. I think Davis Mills could be in trouble here. So a couple more names to go through. I'm not going to run down the entire list. I think it would drag on too long. But let's actually start with, I think, the biggest name remaining on this list. It doesn't save you a lot of money, but I don't think anyone thinks this guy is a fit in the system anymore. And to me, this is really more of a trade probably than a cut. But Dameon Pierce. I mean, I think we all agree does not fit the system. He's a talented running back. He showed a lot of explosiveness in his rookie season. He's just not a fit for the zone scheme, the 49ers Shanahan tree offensive system. Would you move on from Dameon Pierce this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, if you, like you said, it's more of a trade than a cutting.
Let's say a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, pull it. Just to take,
I know it's a 2-round loss from where you drafted him, but coming off this season.
Yeah, it's a 2-round loss this year, and then if you hold on to him for another year, you might just have to cut him.
It's a complete loss.
So I think it is a, trade your losses and not cut your losses, and just throw a dart throw. I mean, a 6th-round pick isn't exactly. You're not.
Sean, once upon a time, Tom Brady drafted in the 6th round.
See, this is where Sean gets his quarterback to replace Davis Mills.
Yeah.
Trade Dameon Pierce, get your quarterback all in one
fell
swoop.
Yes. Draft the greatest quarterback of all time. Yes, if
that's
can do
the
that,
plan.
you know what? If they can do that, Nick Caserio, I tip my cap.
Let's run through a couple of the more names here, and then we will get to some of our free agency and draft conversations here in the next segment since we're up against it. I'll just start with the fullback because that's been a conversation I feel like I've had every single game. Every single time they give the ball to Andrew Beck, I'm asking the contract, asking the question, why are they giving the ball to Andrew Beck? I think this team is going to have a fullback just because that's the system. Yeah. Are you guys on board with that, or specifically Andrew Beck, or would you be looking elsewhere?
I mean, realistically, if the team values what he's bringing to the table, and
like a kick returner,
and clearly they do. Weapon, yeah. I don't think that there's any harm in keeping him, because we're getting to the point now with some of these on the list of potential cut options where it's like
just under $2 million.
Yeah, we're talking just under $2 million, and I understand that might be the difference between making a signing in season for someone like a Derek Barnett, for instance, or not. And look, with how much Derek Barnett impacted the team, obviously it would be massive to have that level of flexibility. But my guess is, considering the role that he filled for the team this past season, and maybe he got more touches than we would all would have liked. But in general, I think that he is important enough to what this team wants to do, and on the special teams, that you should probably keep him around.
Got it.
I mean,
because he's a Longhorn.
Longhorn bias is you guys same draft class, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, I know you said you were at school at the same time as Andrew Beck. I didn't know what year you graduated, but all right, we're going to carry over the conversation into the next segment, a little more on the Texans. Who is our dream signing in free agency if we can only pick one? And then we're going to take a look at some of the mock drafts and see which name we like most from some of the names being projected to the Texans with the 23rd pick in the NFL draft. That when the Bullpen returns on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
This is The Bullpen, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here are the producers of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. Welcome back into The Bullpen with Sean Mapes, found on Twitter at Sean A. Mapes, Andrew Carlson at Carlson Radio. I'm Brian McDonald at Sack by BMAC, and our man John Belmer back behind the glass for the first time in a few months. He can be found on Twitter at Third Coast Johnny, and that's with a 3RD, right? That's not spelled out Third Coast, right?
Correct,
okay.
3RD.
All right, very good. So find him on Twitter at Third Coast Johnny, and we will again hear from Johnny a little bit later in the show with his debut in the award-winning, groundbreaking segment Mount Rushmore +1. So set your expectations very high. No way he will come underneath that. We continue the Texans. I'm sorry, Johnny. That was a jerk move there. I'm just trying to set you up there. Let's continue the Texans conversation before we get into the Astros next segment. Last segment we were talking about some of the names they could cut to save some money and add to their wallet going into free agency. So let's talk about some of the guys they could actually potentially sign in free agency. I'm not going to read down obviously every free agent.
No, please do.
Yeah,
please do.
yeah.
Let me get comfortable.
Stand by.
I have the lumbar.
Stand by for the next 5 minutes. I'll read off every name on this list. But I put on here on our Google Doc, basically all the big names, all the pie in the sky names that I think a lot of Texans fans are looking at with their, $70 million in salary cap. And I'm curious if you had your dream pick, and let's not include Jonathan Grenard in this, because obviously if Jonathan Grenard resigns, I still think you have room for one more big splashy move. But I'll start with you, Sean. Of these names, there's some really big names on here. Obviously, Chris Jones, Josh Allen, not going to name everyone, but Mike Evans, T. Higgins. Obviously, the running backs have a lot of big names there. Most of them past their prime, but a lot of big names there. Who amongst this group would be your dream signing for the Houston Texans?
The one dream signing is, and I'm taking this as this is make him say no territory or make his other team match.
Just throw a lot of cash.
Yes, but just and then if you don't get him, that's fine. I am starting at the top and working my way down. It's Antoine Winfield Jr. from the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Yeah, build up the secondary a little bit more. We talked in the first segment about how D'Amico wants to invest in the defensive line room. I don't know how D'Amico sees it, but I see it as invest in multiple bodies there to have a deep defensive line room. Think about the Eagles from last year. Actually, both years that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, they had just a ton of pass rushers and a ton of defensive linemen that they could rotate in and out of there. And then when they struggle, it's when those guys get hurt or they fall off like they did this year. So I'd be more comfortable throwing bigger money at a position, away from the defensive line. And pairing up Antoine Winfield with a secondary that already has Stingley in it, that's really to me the dream scenario.
That they're going to have a hole there. Some people might think, well, that Stevie Nelson, but Stevie Nelson also a free agent, and he's now in his 30s. So
yeah,
you're obviously not handing out a super long-term contract to Stevie Nelson, even if you bring him back. So, and I think that also has the tie-in to the defensive line. If we're talking about, things connecting, if the corners can cover for longer, then the pass rushers have longer to get home. So you can certainly still help your defensive line there, even by investing in the secondary. Andrew, who would be your dream signing?
I think that I'm torn between two guys in this defensive line group that you've got here. And one of them I don't believe to be realistic because I just believe that he'd be franchise tagged, and that's Josh Allen. I truly believe that he's going to get a franchise tag from the Jags here. So as much as I would love to see him in a Texans uniform, and not only would it be great to see him playing down over at NRG, but also he would be a massive loss to the Jags. So it would be sort of a doubly impactful addition. But Justin Madubuike is someone that I would absolutely love to see in a Texans uniform. Getting a Haas in the middle of the defensive line who can do the things that he does. Like we saw the sort of impact he had when the Texans played the Ravens last Saturday. And if there was any sort of chance that you could get him in, obviously that would probably eliminate the need to go high on a defensive tackle or interdefensive line in the draft. So you can free that draft selection up for something else. But it's been a long time since the Texans have had someone who can be as effective as Justin Madubuike is on the interior of the line. I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, Madubuike and Will Anderson Jr. Obviously, in that scenario, Jonathan Grenard's gone. You're not paying Grenard to come back when you already have Will Anderson Jr. and then the signing of Justin Madubuike. Andrew stole mine. That was mine as well.
Okay.
So
it would have been a clean sweep because as far as the big money defensive line names go, he was going to be my number one pick among that group. It's just philosophically we're throwing it in different places. But yeah, that is interesting.
That probably is the number one. But I'm gonna go different just to be different, so we don't get the same name. And I'm actually gonna stick with one of his teammates, someone else on the Baltimore Ravens.
Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. Nailed it. No, Patrick Queen. Look, I mean, especially when you have, a great legendary linebacker as your head coach and your defensive play caller. I don't think there are many guys calling plays on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL who could do more with the Patrick Queen than DeMeco Ryans. And also like the talent in the draft at the defensive line spots. Look, not to be a Texas homer, but if you're able to draft a Byron Murphy or Devondre Sweat in the first round, maybe that is your defensive piece. You bring back Renard, and then you spend your other money here on Patrick Queen, and your front seven at that point is what I think DeMeco would want at that point.
And being an off-ball linebacker like Queen, that is a position kind of like running back where you can get a bigger name and a bigger talent than you think for the price.
Sure.
So that's why, I mean, going over to the offense side of the ball, the free agents that BMAC has listed here is Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler. All five guys that probably went in the first 2 rounds of fantasy football drafts.
Yeah, all of them, yeah.
And all of them are probably going to sign for way less than you think.
They're
going to top out at like maybe $15 million.
The conversation I think we are all maybe, or I'll speak for myself, that getting tired of a little bit about like the running back money. It's not going to get any better.
No.
Especially in a market.
That's why I think you can get one. Just wait.
Because the market's flooded.
Yeah,
not to get into economics, but when you have this many options, like why would you spend top of the dollar when there's so many options out there?
Yeah, and definitely don't do, and because we see this every year in the NFL free agency, and the New England Patriots were the poster child of this, is the rush of money the first 2 days of free agency, and the New England Patriots did not spend any of it, and they had to wait until March 30th, April 15th, and then those guys that are still out there, their price tag is lowering because there's less money out from the teams in the market. Then you sign those guys to the bargain deal as they just need a team, as chairs are filling up. And so that is where I would be in the running back market, is the sit back and wait, draft a guy, and then maybe bring back Singletary. Who knows? And
it'd be fine, depending on. Well, let me ask you.
And that's how I would rebuild the Texans running back room.
Let me ask you this: according to SpotTrack, his market value for whatever that's worth is 3 years, $13 million. If that's the price on Singletary, if that's the price on Singletary, are you in?
Yes,
assuming you can improve, I don't know, offensive line or whatever around him, because I think certainly they need more help than just bringing Singletary back.
That is the key to the running game for the Texans. It's most of the improvement could be made on the offensive line than beefing up the Singletary spot. But I would to answer your question, yes, I'd bring back Singletary and what's that, a little bit over 4 a year.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer given how he played. I mean, he was nearly 1,000-yard back this season. I understand.
Would have been if he played the full season as a starter.
I get that doesn't mean as much these days with the 17th game, but
kids these days.
Well, yeah, it's just the new era of the NFL.
There's not enough.
Not what we grew up on, right?
Yeah.
No.
Back in my day, 1,000 yards used to mean something.
When men were men.
But not
1,000 yards meant something. Damn it!
Not just the on-field production too, but you listen to people talk about Devin Singletary and what he meant to the locker room. They all spoke about him in glowing terms. So he's someone that I would like to keep around, both from a on-field fit because he clearly works in this scheme, and from a off-field perspective as well. And the only question for me at the running back spot really is, do you want to go young and draft somebody in, like, let's say the 3rd round, or are you taking a punt on one of these veteran guys? And I think the money would be too rich for my blood for Saquon. Like, do you see any world where Saquon's not getting at least $10 million for a year somewhere?
No, I can't imagine him taking a contract less than what he got for this single year.
Yeah, so
at least AAV. Now, baked into that AAV though will be, obviously not all of it would be guaranteed, so the team could still get out of it. But I can't imagine he signs up for a deal that pays him significantly less than what he made this year on an AAV.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry strikes me as someone who is over the hill at this point.
I think Derrick Henry's also going to look, not that the Texans aren't a contender, but I think Derrick Henry is going to be very picky with where he goes.
So you think he's going to be like a Chiefs type guy?
Yeah,
He wants someone who is
right.
almost guaranteed to be in the final.
I mean,
four.
he was almost a Raven this year.
Yeah.
He was almost traded to the Ravens. So I could see something like that.
Josh Jacobs, I think that he's kind of washed up at this point too. Tony Pollard excites me, but again, like the Texans have too many. I don't want to say holes on the roster.
Does Tony Pollard feel like younger Devin Singletary?
Yeah.
That seeing him as the lead back in Dallas did not
doesn't excite you.
Does not poorly timed contract year. I'll say for Tony Pollard.
Yeah, but certainly poorly timed. Let's quickly. We only got about a minute here, but just going to get your quick reaction. So I put in. I don't know, like 8 or 9 different picks made in the various mock drafts from some of the biggest names.
Yes, mock draft season.
Mel Kiper's in here, obviously Daniel Jeremiah and a few others. Chris Trapasso seems to come up on our shows on 97.5 all the time for some of his hot takes. So one of his mock drafts on here. I'll quickly read through the names, and there's some of these are repeats. Mel Kiper has the Texans selecting Jerzon Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois. Couple guys have, I mentioned Byron Murphy, the defensive lineman from Texas. 2 mock drafters have him going to the Texans. 2 others have Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State. Then you have a few names sprinkled in. Adonai Mitchell, Sean, the wide receiver from Texas. Pro Football Focus has that being the Texans pick. Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia. And a name I'm going to butcher, but I'm going to try to say with confidence. Troy Fatunu. Fatanu. Damn.
You were close.
I was close.
Yeah.
So Bucky Brooks and Walter Football both have Troy Fatunu.
Fatanu.
Damn it.
I think you said it the same exact
Did
way.
I
He
say
said it. Yes.
I totally going into it, I was like, I forgot how I said it. Anyway, so of these mock draft projections for the Houston Texans, a lot of this fits what we talked about. You got a lot of defensive linemen in here, offensive linemen as well. Pretty much, everyone but Adonai Mitchell would be an offensive or defensive lineman that's mocked.
Build through the trenches, except for Adonai Mitchell.
Of these, exactly. And he would be exciting. He's a 6'4" receiver with hands, but I don't think he's going to be the pick. Of these guys that are projected to go to the Texans, what would be your favorite, Sean?
My favorite would probably be either one of the defensive linemen. I haven't done enough watching of them.
You haven't been grinding the tape?
Come
no,
on,
I've not been grinding the defensive line tape. Honestly, I don't think Byron Murphy's going to last till
I don't either.
25.
I think that's a little generous. So you think Tavondre Sweat will be more likely to get there of the 2?
More likely to get there than the 2. I like Chop Robinson mostly because his name's Chop Robinson.
We have Chop. You can have Sting. There's a lot of fun.
Chop.
There's Chop and Sting.
Like the dog from GTA 5.
yes.
It's a Rottweiler.
Yes. Okay, so besides the pit bull from GTA 5, Andrew, what would be your favorite pick here amongst this group?
I'm in lockstep with Sean here, where really outside of the pick of the offensive tackle Amarius Mims of Georgia, like outside of that from these mock drafts, there's not anything on there that upsets me at all because they're going to need help on the interior line, and I'm assuming it would be Troy. How do you say it, B-Mac?
Fatanu?
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Confidence next time.
There we go.
Johnny, I did it. All right, I got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so outside of
Pat myself in the back here. All right.
Like outside of the Mims pick, Fatanu would be a need on the interior offensive line because that was clearly an area where the team got pushed around when things got to the later stages of the season. And then we've talked ad nauseum already in the show about how they're going to invest in the defensive line, whether it be on the interior or at the edge. So I wouldn't be upset with either Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton, or Chop Robinson. And who can get mad if you take a playmaking wide receiver in the first round, too?
Exactly.
Like that, while that may not be the biggest need for the team, they have enough money where they will be able to spread things out and address the depth issues. So you can't really go wrong for me with any of these selections outside of the tackle, because if you're getting a swing tackle, assuming that you're going to have Laramie Tunsil on one side, Titus Howard on the other, I'm guessing you can pick up a George Fant type in the free agency market for cheaper than
George Fant 2.
Yeah, for cheaper than what I would imagine the cost essentially would be for a first round pick. So
if they drafted Mims, I think what we would end up with is Titus Howard back at left guard,
Yeah,
which I don't
shoot
think
me.
any of us
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
No
I
thanks.
would.
I'd rather just draft a guard.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd rather just
draft
the
a
guard,
damn guard,
100%.
please.
Yeah, I'll echo what you guys say. My favorite names would be Byron Murphy and Chop, but like you said with Adonai Mitchell, it may not look like a need, but what do we spend what the second segment on, how they have no third wide receiver because in our minds they're cutting Robert Woods and you don't know what you have in John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. So certainly Adonai Mitchell would be a big help to the Texans down the road. All right, next segment we're going to get into the Astros pitchers and catchers report in less than a month. It's I guess probably about 3 weeks at this point. So what are the biggest questions going into the Astros season? We're going to discuss 5 of those when we get back on the Bullpen. ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's the Bullpen, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Welcome back in. Houston ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5, the Bullpen with the producers here of ESPN Radio. And we're switching topics here. If you want to hear any of our Texans conversation from the last 3 segments, it'll be up on the podcast page like in a couple hours here. But we're going to transition over into the Astros. Sean Mapes, Andrew Carlson, myself, Brian McDonald, and our man Johnny Belmer behind the glass. If you have any thoughts on what we're going to talk about with the Houston Astros in their now 16 days, Sean, from the pitchers and catchers reporting.
No trombone this time.
No trombone?
No. No,
Man,
no
it's
trombone.
not the same without it.
No,
It really isn't.
we need the bone on the weekend.
But we're I think you discovered we're Jason Lane days away.
Jason Lane days
away from pitchers and catches reporting. So we're not going to get into the 16 biggest Astros questions, but we will do the 5 biggest Astros questions, assuming we have time. We were a little late on the last segment. We might have to cut it off at 4. We'll see. But I think the number one question going into the season for me is, and I know that for the first one, it might feel kind of weird because the first half was so great and he threw a no-hitter. But can Framber Valdez and Christian Javier bounce back? Christian Javier obviously had a lot of struggles throughout the season, a few really good random starts sprinkled in, but certainly didn't live up to the contract that he got in the offseason. And Framber, after a first half that had him as the Cy Young favorite, and then a random no-hitter thrown into the mix, and on August 1st, the day they got Justin Verlander.
Between, 25 terrible starts.
Exactly. He went 2 months where he was just straight garbage, and then he had a random no-hitter thrown into it. So what are y'all's confidence in Christian Javier and Framber bouncing back? Was it workload? Was it the WBC? A workload doesn't really go away because he still played to Game 7 of the ALCS, but what is your confidence that they can bounce back?
If we're putting on a scale of 1 to 10,
sure,
let's go with a 6.
Ooh,
where
not that confident.
I'm confident, but I'm not extremely confident. Right? Do I think it's going to happen? Do I think it's more likely than not? Yes, but I also don't know how big of a bounce back it's going to be because for Framber, my expectations are higher. For Christian Javier, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little concerned. I think that they'll both be okay simply because of what you mentioned, where they don't have the WBC. And because of that, they get a legitimate offseason to sort of rest, recuperate, and recover, whereas they just did not get that last year. But there's a small part of me that is a little concerned that maybe the league, to some level, has figured out Christian Javier. And when you are a pitcher who's relying essentially on one magic pitch and then everything else sort of plays off of that, it's a little worrying that you fell off to the degree that you did. And once you lose that pitch, it can be very hard to sort of get it back, especially if it's something that the league has sort of figured out or found a way to hit more effectively than they did in the past.
Yeah, I think I'm probably about at a 7 as opposed to a 6. I'm just a little bit more confident in the lack of the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm 100% confident that there will not be a World Baseball Classic this year.
Yes. Christian has that excuse, but Framber doesn't.
Yes, I was thinking more about Christian
Sure.
Javier. Framber Valdez, I'm not very if we were to separate them, I'm less confident in Framber than I am in Christian Javier. Yeah, because
I feel like that's a bold take.
I think I'm just putting more stock in the
lack of the WBC.
And
Fair.
that combined with this is now Christian Javier's second full year where he's preparing to be a starter as opposed to his first with the WBC. That is the math I'm doing, and then with Framber, it's just it's because it's all up here with Framber.
know exactly, yeah.
That's where I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna. He's 29 years old. He hasn't figured it out. I don't know if he's gonna figure it out now this year. If he's gonna be able to put it all together, is it pitch clock related? Is it not pitch clock related?
That's exactly why I'm kind of
pitch clock's not going away.
Exactly. I'm probably at a 6. I could maybe even be talked down to a 5 because a lot of what caused these concerns that we're talking about are things that are not going to change. Like with Christian Javier, Andrew, you talked about his one magic pitch. He lost 3 miles an hour off his fastball. We'll be watching that in spring training. Everyone, the second Christian Javier takes him out, is going to look for those fastball readings. But if he doesn't get that velocity back on his fastball, I don't think a lot changes, even not having the World Baseball Classic with Framber. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. It's like he gets shaken. He doesn't have the luxury of stepping off the mound and doing his routine with wiping his sweat and rubbing his palm that he used to have before the pitch clock got put into play. So the things that I think led to their downfall, I'm not really confident that anything's going to be different this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a major point of concern because, like you mentioned, B-Mac, that if Javier doesn't get that fastball back, what does he bring as a pitcher? There's literally nothing that he's bringing to the table that is sustainably. I don't want to
awesome.
say, well, not even just awesome, but from just a baseline MLB pitcher. Christian Javier, once he lost that fastball in the middle of the season last year, he wasn't just bad; he was awful for the majority of his starts. Where maybe it wasn't as bad as because I looked it up yesterday, and because we talked about this during Connor and Beard actually, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I remembered because I remember the final score for some of those games, and it was the other team with 10, 11, 12 runs, and the Astros won I think 2 or 3 of those starts.
Yeah, I know one of them was the awesome Rangers game that they played in July.
But I remembered, or at least my memory had sort of turned it into Christian Javier surrendering all of those runs.
Blew it up in the first 2 innings.
Yeah, and it wasn't totally like he only had one start where he went like 2 innings, and the rest of them he was able to make it through at least 4. But with the lack of depth that the Astros have in their starting rotation this season, I'm much more concerned if all of a sudden we're having to lean more on Christian Javier and he's not able to give you 5-6 innings on a relatively consistent basis, because I think that the starting rotation is the worst that it's been in this golden era of Astros baseball. I think this is the weakest the rotation's been, and because of that, you're going to need some of these guys who are question marks to bounce back and step up in ways that we know they can, but they didn't last year.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there, Andrew. I might classify it differently as maybe this is the most question marks.
Okay, that might be fair.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's splitting hairs, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's definitely the most question marks. Because the name that we haven't even mentioned, Justin Verlander, he's now reaching an age that obviously brings some question marks in. And you brought up Javier, and like, what does he have? The problem is he was basically a 2-pitch pitcher.
Yeah,
I mean his slider's good. But if the fastball's sitting at 91 and they could just wait on the fastball to crush it because it's sitting at 91, then they don't have to even worry with that slider. All right, we got to one Astros question. We might save some for next week or maybe later in the show if we have some time. But next segment we're going to get into – actually, you know what? We'll continue this for. We had a Hall of Fame segment planned for next one, but forget that. We're going to carry the biggest questions for the Astros into the next segment when the Bullpen returns on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's the Bullpen, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5, Hour 2 of the Bullpen, and we continue the Astros conversation. If you have any thoughts on the Biggest questions for the Astros' upcoming season. Pitchers and catchers report in 16 days. Give us a call on the HRMP listener line, 713-780-3776. You can find us all on Twitter. Sean is at Sean A. Mapes. Andrew's at Carlson Radio. I'm at Sack by BMAC. And our man Johnny behind the glass is at Third Coast Johnny. So we got to Carlos Correa questions on the list of the biggest Astros questions in segment 1. Now we go to Alex Bregman. I'm not sure if we'll get beyond that, but we'll see how it goes. And honestly, we probably
can we get to George Springer number?
That is what I strive to get to. We will see. So number 2 on the biggest questions for the Astros, and it's staying kind of in the same topic, but it's a little bit different because obviously these guys are far less proven or have more question marks. But can Hunter Brown, J.P. France, and Jose Urquidy solidify the back end of the rotation until, knock on wood, cross your fingers, whatever you want to do, Luis Garcia gets back in June, ? And Lance McCullers Jr. just sometime before the end of the season, hopefully.
Magically appears and starts pitching again.
So, I mean, certainly if knock on wood, everything goes, the best it possibly could, you actually get Garcia and Lance back, let's say All-Star break, you're probably feeling fairly good about the rotation until they break down again. But until that point, we saw JP France, the kind of it feels like every week we had to ask the question, when's the shoe going to drop? And then it finally did. Hunter Brown, he was spotty. It was had the same season of Christian Javier. Has some really dominant moments against like the A's, but there was a lot of bad games mixed in there as well. And then Jose Urquidy had his moments, but you never know when his shoulder's going to blow up. So where's your confidence in the back end of the rotation after Verlander, Fromber, and Javier?
So this is where it becomes a question of what your actual expectations are and your confidence that they can meet the expectations of just being the 3rd, 4th, and 5th starter of a baseball team or of a Houston Astros team, or if we hold them to the standard of what, like you mentioned, this is the starting rotation with the most question marks of coming into any season of this Astros run. It's like, well, we're not holding them to like the 2018 or 19
no,
team
certainly
standards.
not. Certainly
like,
not.
They're not
even holding. Are we holding to even Brad Peacock levels? That'd probably be on Brad Peacock. Levels.
Yeah. If they could produce Brad Peacock level results, I think, or if I would want a little bit more out of Hunter Brown. I would say that. Hunter Brown, I think, is dealing with
especially
a different.
If you got the nickname of Diesel. You can't be like you can't be just a guy.
Such a good take.
You can't be just a guy if your nickname's Diesel.
Yeah, and when you're having the overlays of you and Justin Verlander next to each other,
you can't be just a guy.
Hey, I hate to break it to you, but Justin Verlander, let me tell you, hop on my knee and let me tell you about an MVP winning pitcher. All right, Justin Verlander. So I think that Hunter Brown, I do have confidence in him just because of the talent that he has, and this being his second year starting as opposed to being a rookie, he qualified as a rookie.
He only had 2 starts the year before.
Yeah.
He was still a rookie.
Yeah, so this, you hope that there's just a natural ascent, he got to work on his game. He knows what you can and can't get away with on a big league mound. So I do expect more out of him. The other 2, France and Urquidy, you're just kind of hoping for, we talked about Brad Peacock level of production, maybe be better than Brandon Bielak and Ronel Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, France and Urquidy are really in the class of,
and I think they can. I'm just not sure how much confidence I have with Urquidy's shoulder issues.
A lot of these guys are guys you're glad that the bullpen got
so awesome,
awesome, because there's going to be some games where you don't know how deep a lot of these guys are going to go.
Just get us to 5 or 6.
Where is your confidence with these guys, Andrew?
Not incredibly high. I feel like you know what you're going to get from Jose Urquidy as long as, like you mentioned, BMAC, he is healthy. He is who he is. He's going to be a 4th or 5th back end of the rotation starter, and he's going to be able to eat some innings as long as that shoulder stays healthy, and he's going to do so with a high 3, maybe just creeping ever so slightly into the 4 ERA. Like, that's just who Jose Urquidy is, and if he can do that, I will be more than happy with that. My questions honestly lie more with Hunter Brown and JP France, because JP France, let's say it like it is. He was a revelation in the Astros rotation last season, and expecting him to be who he was last season after putting way more innings on his arm than he has ever dealt with previously, I'm going to be extremely interested to see how his body responds and how he responds as a pitcher now that teams have had plenty of a chance to look at him, his stuff, and how he works. And because it's not like he blows you away with anything, right? It's not like there's anything in J.P. France's package as a pitcher to where he's like, oh, this guy just he blows you away with his stuff or his velocity or anything else. He was just a very crafty pitcher. And look, sometimes those guys are able to carve out extremely long careers. Other times they're a one-season wonder, sort of a flash in the pan, because the minute something goes awry with whatever it is that they're doing, they're not able to really adjust and respond. So I'll be interested to see what J.P. France puts out. And then Hunter Brown, he has all the potential in the world.
Is he the biggest question mark of the team right now? Because of the difference in the variance in his, like, if he hits his highest of highs, holy crap.
Yeah.
This Astros rotation goes from biggest question marks to maybe the strength of the team versus the low end, what we saw in some of the games down the stretch where you really couldn't rely on him all. He wasn't pitching any better than J.P. France. Then that opens up a whole new list of questions about this back end of the rotation.
I still think Christian Javier is probably the biggest question mark just because we know what he can be. And then what he was last season was so far from that like you're just praying for some sort of regression back to, or progression, I guess in this case, back to who he was. Positive regression. That's progression, right?
It is, but it's more fun to say positive regression.
But yeah, like Hunter Brown, if he can be who Astros fans sort of hyped him up to be after his first 7 or 8 starts last season, where we were talking about, oh, he's going to win Rookie of the Year and he's going to be a Cy Young candidate in a couple years. And then all of a sudden he started turning into a contact pitcher and his ERA ballooned the rest of the season. I'm interested to see what sort of development he has made because we know that the stuff is there, but the command was not consistently there for the majority of the season. And then he's, like I mentioned just a second ago, he sort of willingly turned himself into a contact pitcher as the season went on last year. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because Justin Verlander's become a bit of a contact pitcher.
Roy Oswalt was always a contact
pitcher.
But
if you can do it well, you're someone who can go deep into games because you're able to manage your pitch count because you're not consistently just trying to miss bats over and over and over again. And that's just a difficult way to be an economic pitcher when it comes to your pitch count. So I'm hopeful that, and the underlying statistics would say that Hunter Brown is due for a bounce back because I think he was one of the unluckiest pitchers if you go through the advanced metrics of batting average on balls in play and expected batting average against stuff. But at the same time, he also gave up way too much hard contact for my liking. So even if he was being unlucky with sort of where the balls landed, people were still barreling him up way too much. So I'm interested to see what sort of progression he can make in his development as a pitcher in terms of, okay, how is he striking that balance between missing bats and then pitching to contact a little bit? And if he finds the right mix, that unlocks a whole new level for what this Astros team can be this season.
I'm fairly confident in Hunter Brown because when you look at his minor league track record, that last season in Sugar Land, I mean, he was basically the Justin Verlander of AAA. Like he won the ERA crown in the Pacific Coast League by more than a full run. He just lapped the field. But when you look at his year by year, it wasn't like he's always been at that level. There was a gradual progression to get to that point. So I do think we could see the same sort of thing, the gradual progression from good pitcher to, better pitcher to eventually getting up to the Hunter Brown that we hope to see.
To earning the Diesel nickname.
But on the downside of that is if he goes through, let's say, all of 2024, basically repeats 2023, then you might hear people start to talk about or start to enter into the conversation the idea of, could he be in the bullpen? That's kind of what Hunter Brown's dealing with because we saw even in his starts where he got blown up, he'd have 1 or 2 innings at the beginning where he was lights out, no one could touch him. Third inning comes around, boom, 5 runs are on the board.
And that's going to be, this might be the year that defines what Hunter Brown is for the remainder of his time as an Astro, is whether or not, because once you get Lance McCullers and Luis Garcia back, you are going to have a wealth of options, hopefully, in the starting rotation. And a couple of these guys are going to get pushed to the pen. Hunter Brown might find himself on that chopping block if he does not improve from where he was last season.
Quickly before we get into the break, we'll get to our third question. We're not going to quite make it to George Springer.
That's all right.
Sean, your favorite number 3 for the Houston Astros?
Hold on, let me.
I put it on you because I can't remember one.
Let me think, and by say think, I mean pull up the Brian McTaggart article where he listed them all.
Number 3, as you're looking up, is
Phil Gardner.
Phil Gardner. Okay, there we go. That's a good one.
Scrap Iron.
That's a good. Yeah, Scrap Iron.
Scrap
That
Iron.
is a good nickname. That is a good name.
And he earned it.
Yes, exactly. He has a World Series title. Not with the Astros, but third one on this list. I think the biggest question with the lineup in the defensive alignment is you didn't really do anything in the outfield. There's still time left. The free agency market has moved at a glacier pace, but right now you're looking at obviously Kyle Tucker in right field, Jordan's your DH, and I'm guessing it's going to be Chaz in left and Jake Myers in center. Maybe not confidence meter, so let's switch it to panic meter. Like, what is your panic on having, like, Jake Myers at, what was it, 2 years ago, 2021 season, where he looked pretty good, and then he had the injury, and he's had a few moments, but he's never really looked quite right, both at the plate and with his arm in the outfield. If Jake Myers, and Dana Brown has said earlier in the offseason that Jake Myers is going to get the chance to be the center fielder, so if we take him at his word, what is your level of concern, your panic meter, on Jake Myers being the everyday center fielder?
Probably.
I mean, let me make one more argument to this.
Okay.
And I'll let you finish. Sorry, I cut you
As
off
I
there.
take the gun out of my mouth.
But someone made the point that because of inserting Yonder Diaz into the lineup, that basically Jake Myers is your new Maldi. Now, it's a different position, but as far as having one hitter at the ninth spot that you couldn't trust at all, nothing has really changed. Do you buy that, and what is your panic level on Jake Myers?
Well, that teaches you that life is all about perspective, because now I feel a little bit better about Jake Myers if I'm holding him to the Maldi standard. But I think it's still, my concern level is probably a 6 with it, because the best case scenario that you can make for it is that he will only be if it goes terribly, that they'll either call someone up, move Chaz to center, and then have a Jolks back and left, or one of their
man, that doesn't make me feel better.
Some of their youth in left field, or they're setting up for a deadline trade, and it's like that. That is probably about as bad as it can go. Is come June, July, when we're doing what do the Astros need at the trade deadline? It's replace
Spoiler
Jake
alert.
Myers. And so that if that's what the worst case scenario is, it can't really, for me, get to a 9 or 10 level. Like,
Sure.
oh my God, this team's bleeped. It's, a 6 where I am concerned. I don't expect this to go well, but ultimately I don't think this is going to be a huge
fix
deal.
it and move on?
Yeah, it's a very fixable problem.
Yeah, I think I'm a little less concerned than Sean, just because of the fact, like what you mentioned, B-Mac, we got Maldi with speed. Like,
you know what? Maybe I'm underrating that. Maybe I'm underrating Maldi with speed.
And, if he's someone...
He's better than Maldi, by the way, looking at his numbers.
Yeah, no, I know that he is. But the front office's infatuation with Jake Myers, it amazes me, because everything that he has put out as a major league player for the last couple of seasons just would tell you that he's not that dude anymore. And as great as he was for that stretch when he first broke into the major leagues, there has been, outside of maybe a couple of weeks last season where he got a little hot, there's basically just been zero signs that guy is ever coming back as a major league player. And that sucks. And it's really sad, because we thought that he was going to be the future of center field at some point before he ran into that wall out in Chicago. But that happens, and we're here now. And I just hope that at some point, if it is not working, the experiment comes to an end, and we're not stuck with saying, hey, we believe in Jake Myers, so you know what, we're just going to keep trotting him out there because we think the talent's still in there. At some point, I would hope that if he is continuing to not perform, this front office would realize that, hey, it's not going to change. Things aren't going to turn around. We're just going to bite the bullet and we're going to move on. Will that happen? I don't know, but I hope that we don't have to go through an entire season of trying to find out, because the front office believes in him.
Yeah, I think I'm an 8 for now, and I'll make this real quick because we got to get to break. I think I'm an 8 for now, but I share Sean's belief that it's an 8 for a couple months, and then they're going to. I have faith that Jay can be bad enough for them to realize they need to move on.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's a mean way to phrase it, but I have faith that he'll be poor enough that they'll know they have to move on by the time we get to middle June, early July. Next on the bullpen, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5, the lead-in to Mount Rushmore +1. We're going to talk a little Rockets with Alperen Şengün's appearance on JJ Redick's podcast, The Old Man in the Three. Had an interesting comment about playing for Ime Udoka and had me wondering about who is kind of the Ime Udoka guy. Like, who can live up and deal with that style of hard coaching, that tough defensive mindset style of coaching? Certainly, I think Şengün can. He said it's. You'll hear him say so when we get back. But who else on the team will be able to thrive in that system? That and more when Bullpen returns on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, man, is this another one of those super long rejoins? There's like 5 lines of text here before you even find out what the show is. Not sure if this is a good use of our time, man. Hold on a second. Look, I'm going to edit this a little bit and save us all some time, okay? It's the Bullpen on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Great work there by Spencer editing himself and getting that rejoin in a timely manner. ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. 3 more segments here left on the Bullpen today. We got Mount Rushmore +1 coming up next segment. Of course, we will finish the show with the things we love from sports and the worst people in sports this week. But right now, we're going to talk a little Rockets, and specifically with Alperen Şengün's appearance on JJ Redick's podcast, The Old Man in Three. This first clip you're about to hear from Alperen Şengün was when JJ talked to him about Ime Udoka's coaching style. I said it again, didn't I?
Ime
Udoka's. Belmer's got a big grin back there. Ime Udoka's coaching style, how tough he can be on his players, and if Şengün likes that style of coaching.
All game, he talks, he's screaming.
Do you feel like he's hard on you?
Yeah, but I love it.
You love it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot. And
Why?
Where I grow up, in Europe.
It's normal.
It's still Ime is so hard on me, but I can say there's nothing, Ime is not cursing them. He cursed, but not that bad, In Turkey, that was bad voices, cursing, screaming. Like
That's every coach you played for in Turkey, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. When I was 18, I was already grew up, so I wasn't like,
It didn't affect you at that point.
Yeah, it didn't affect me at that point. But when when I was a kid, actually, it didn't affect me either. I saw a lot of things like, if you're like good player in your team, you have to take all that things and like all the coaches are coming at you, no matter what, you are a good boy.
So even when you were a kid
yes,
and a teenager, you didn't take any of that personally?
No.
Alperen Şengün, hardened by the age of 18. Right off the bat, that caught my attention. But it got me to thinking about the Rockets under Udoka and which players, certainly it seems Şengün, hardened in the streets by the age of 18 in Turkey, can deal with his style of coaching and seemingly thrive in. He's having the best season of his career so far. But I'm not so sure about every other Rocket on this team. Obviously, probably the first name that will come up in this conversation is Jalen Green, but I'm sure it goes beyond that for you guys. When you hear those comments from Şengün about Udoka and him thriving in that tough style play, are there any names on this team when you're looking forward, kind of like the old "is he a Bill Parcells guy" conversation? Are there guys on this team you worry about maybe not able to handle that style of coaching and could be on their way out once Udoka gets a full season to look at how he handles his style of coaching?
Everyone who's not from Turkey is immediately a suspect. If you're not from Istanbul, you're not Istanbuli, then
wow.
Is Şengün from Istanbul?
I don't know. It's the only place in Turkey I can name. All right. I mean the easiest way is to go with the Ime guys. Who you think the guys are, and that would be mostly the veterans. You would think that it's
the guys they signed as free agents too.
It's the Fred VanVleets,
Dylan
Brooks, Jeff Green, because he loves playing Jeff Green. So I imagine he
30 minutes a night.
Yeah, I'm always shocked how much Jeff Green. He's good, but I'm always surprised that he's 39 years old.
A little bit between him and Cam Whitmore, please.
Yeah. Just wow, give him some rest. He's an old man, please. His nickname is Uncle. There's never a young guy with the nickname Uncle your first name. But I mean, you do worry about the young guys kind of, sinking or swimming, as you worry about with any kind of. This is a little bit different. You worry about if they can sink or swim as far as their skills in the NBA. This is more about their mentality. But if they can't swim with the hard coaching, you feel good about what the mental side of their game is. And so I don't really have any worries about Jabari Smith. He seems like he's a guy who's responded well. And this is all just from the outside, just watching the games and who seems like they respond well to that kind of coaching. I would say Jabari Smith is kind of past the body language and the just kind of watching the games test as far as that goes. The rookies, it's too early to tell,
What about a guy like Tari Eason?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100% Dylan, or
He's
Ime
the Udoka guy?
Kind of guy, yes.
Andrew, you feel worried about any of these young guys in their future about being able to handle this style of coaching?
Not really, because if they can't handle it, then they don't necessarily belong on this team or in the league. So it's going to very much be a survival of the fittest type atmosphere where if you can't shape up and shape it and become a part of the collective, then you're just not going to have a place on the team. And the Rockets will move on and improve without you, and that's fine.
Kelvin Sampson mentality right here. That is the Kelvin Sampson coaching tree.
Shape up or ship out.
Right here. I can't teach you to be tough. Give me tough players, and I can teach them how to play basketball. That's what Andrew Carlson just said.
Yeah, we'll teach them how to play hard, and then once they figure that out, then they
teach them how to hit those
basketball.
unders.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do.
By the way, I think everyone is okay with getting coached hard for some amount of time, and then you get sick of it.
Yeah, I think I'm sure there's the guys that appreciated Belichick early on.
Yeah,
and then after they were there for 5 years, like
Stop yelling at me, all right?
Back off, dude. Yeah, so it'll be interesting because I think, look, we obviously spent some of the season talking about, hey, can they make the playing game? Can they do this or that? But really, this season is about, I think, finding who their future guys are, and I think that's a part of the process about who can deal with the style of coaching and who can't. This next clip from Şengün is JJ's asking him about kind of what the nickname that everyone calls him, the baby Joker gimmick that he's had put upon him. Does he like it? Does he think that's fair? Let's hear from Alperen Şengün right now.
The mini Jokic thing. Does the Jokic comparison, does that bother you?
I mean, no.
No.
Not for now. Still young, but after some point, yeah.
Do you feel like it's a pretty big compliment?
I mean, yeah, they mean like my game is similar to him.
Yeah.
Is it true though? We kind of play
Yeah.
same game. It was when they were telling me first time I came here, it sounds better, but getting like, getting your own space now in NBA, on your spot. So of course, when he got retired or something, when he got old and I'm gonna some age, I don't wanna people tell me baby Jokic,
Right.
At
Right.
some
Right.
point,
Right now
I
it's
had to, like,
fine.
yeah, right now
it's
I'm
fine.
like a baby, but like when I grow up, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, Alpy doesn't want to be called Baby Jokic when he's 30 and he's a grizzled vet.
Yeah, he wants to be called Uncle Alfred.
Uncle Alpy, exactly. So he wants to progress in that, but maybe this is kind of me remembering like some of the people that would have Baby Jordan thrown them. Like shout out to Harold Miner. So I don't entirely love. I get the similarities. They do share a similar style ball. They're big men. They're not from this country. There's a lot of things that line up as similarities between Alpy and Nikola Jokic, but I don't know. Like putting Baby Joker on him is such a high bar when you look at Alpy. Like Alpy's numbers this year, best of his career. He's 21 points a game, 9 rebounds.
Yeah.
I believe just under nine assists. Not 9 assists. He's at 5 assists a game. Sorry, that's Jokic. Whereas Jokic, when you look at the last 4 years, including this year, he's at 26 points, 12 rebounds, damn near 9 assists. I mean, it's such a high bar, and then obviously you throw in the winning the championship
2
last
MVPs
year.
and
It feels like we're putting a very, very unfair, crazy high bar on Alpy. Like he could get to a level, I think, where he could be the best player on a contending team. But putting Jokic when he's 21 years old, Jokic is 7 years older at 28. It feels like a lot this early into his career.
When you do compare their age, like their career by age, or not by age, by years in the league, because Jokic got drafted in 14, stayed a year in Europe before coming over. But when you compare them by their first, like what their third season looks like each, Sengun is more on the track than you would think of being, being compared to Jokic. That's really where the comparison I feel like is more fair than it is like, hey, just see what the guy in Denver's doing tonight, do that. But I completely agree with Sengun being like, yeah, I'm cool with it now, but like kind of stop calling me that in a couple years.
I want to be my own guy.
Yeah. And so obviously putting 2 MVPs in a championship and a finals MVP on them, that is a lot for any player to live up to. But right now he is on the Nikola Jokic pace. Whether he can keep that up, that's what separates, these all-stars or fringe all-stars to the future Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and it may be a lot of pressure to put that upon his shoulders to say, hey, you're going to be the next Nikola Jokic, but I would much rather that be the conversation than anything else. Like, if we're talking about...
Jalen Green would love to be called baby someone.
If we were talking about Jalen Green as like baby Jordan, if he was baby Ant right now, we'd be like over the moon.
There's like 2 years of difference between them.
Okay, well, I mean, I'd still take it.
Younger brother Ant.
No, I'd take it over baby Jordan Clarkson. I'd for sure take that. Hey, Jalen Green played well last night.
He did. And that kind of disproves your theory because, well, actually, no, it doesn't. We're not talking about it. So actually, your theory is still dead on.
Well,
Jalen Green
has
only
good games where you do not talk about.
Where you do not talk about it, and we haven't talked about it today. So you're actually dead on. All right, when we get back here on the Bullpen, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5, it's time for the debut of Johnny Belmer, Mount Rushmore +1. The award-winning, groundbreaking, sports landscape changing Mount Rushmore +1 with the Bullpen returns on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. It is time for Mount Rushmore Plus One here on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5 Houston. You're welcome. Sean, Andrew, myself, Brian McDonald, and our man, the returning Johnny Belmer, will have Mount Rushmore Plus One list for you today. I think this brightens people's weekends. They're driving around the car. Maybe their Saturday hadn't gone off to the best start. Maybe I don't know what's going on in your life, but maybe it didn't get off to a great start. You hear Mount Rushmore Plus One. I think it lifts spirits.
Brightens my day, at least.
Sean, brighten our day. Why don't you lead off?
Oh, I'm leading off?
Oh, you don't
wow,
have
he just
to.
threw that on him just like that.
Okay.
I thought the rookie had to lead off.
Should we have Johnny?
That's what we did last week.
That's true. That's what we did with Cam. No, I think, well, it doesn't matter. Cam would second. But Johnny Belmer, your debut in Mount Rushmore.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no pressure,
Sink
John.
or swim.
Okay, yeah.
Sink or swim. Like
Don't,
Ime
hey,
Udoka.
just think of this. The success of the segment is riding upon your list.
Oh,
but no
that
pressure.
didn't help.
No,
Thank
one-
you, B-Mac.
Lead off is kind of the.
I mean, it's the most important spot. I mean, you're the Jose Altuve of this segment right now.
Oh, well, that helps a little bit.
Okay.
That helps a little bit. So last week, a guy named Zachary Scott was arrested at the John F. Kennedy Airport trying to smuggle cocaine inside of bags of frozen shrimp. So this has inspired...
He got caught?
Yeah, he did get caught.
Seems like a good plan. I don't know.
This has inspired my Mount Rushmore Plus One of my top 5 foods that could possibly benefit from somebody smuggling cocaine inside of it.
Already off to a good start.
This is a
Johnny.
great start.
Yeah.
Off
So
to a
this
good
is about
start.
improving the food.
In
cocaine.
a way, or improving the experience you get when you eat the food.
Okay.
So I
A little
consume
bit
cocaine, and then the food is better.
No,
No,
you-
the food
The cocaine is in the food.
with
Yeah.
the food.
Yeah,
Oh,
somebody
okay.
smuggled
Like a spice.
smuggled the drugs in the
Sprinkle.
food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 5, I would say breakfast cereals. Get that kick in the
Instead of
morning
sugar.
instead of sugar. There you go. On
Most
your way to
important
work.
meal of the day.
Who
for a
needs
reason.
coffee? I've got cocaine in my cereal.
Different kind
you
of
want to
Frosted
be
Flakes.
productive that day. This is how you do it. My number 2 is movie theater popcorn. I struggle to stay awake in movie theaters. I feel like if somebody was smuggling cocaine in the movie theater popcorn, and then we were cooking it and eating it, I think I'd be able to stay up for the movie.
Popcorn's already pretty good, though. I don't feel like it needs an improvement.
You wouldn't taste it. You would just
be hard to
experience the
Wait,
movie
are
better.
you speaking from experience?
No.
Okay.
It'd be hard to sit still through the movie. Though.
Yeah.
Can't be
You
watching
should be
Oppenheimer.
shouting out randomly.
Yeah, can't be watching Oppenheimer.
Also, I think you'd probably remember every detail of the movie.
Probably.
My number 3 is within Thanksgiving turkeys. Somebody was smuggling cocaine within that. I think the get-togethers,
Turkokin?
the family dinner on Thanksgiving night would be 10 times better.
Turducken.
There you go. Number 2, I've got within the funnel cakes or turkey legs at a theme park.
Ooh, I like the funnel
You
cake
could
one.
also probably get through an airport with it on funnel cake because
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
it,
true.
It looks the part.
That's
for
true.
profiling.
I feel like you would go on every single ride at the park on that specific day. And then this number 1 for me is personal, right? I'm a guy who likes a buffet. My number 1 is within the desserts at the end of a really good buffet. So you eat your food, then you get dessert, then you get that extra win. You can go get a couple extra plates.
Helps with the food.
Wow.
There you go. There you go.
Helps you get the most bang for your buck at the buffet.
Yeah,
go
it
back
does.
go back for more. I think that was a pretty good debut
was a good
there
one.
from Johnny
That was a
Two
good one.
Jobs.
That was a good one.
That was a very good job, John. You live up to the Jose Altuve moniker I put on
thank you.
put on you at the beginning of the
That was a
segment.
lead-off home.
Oh, there
All
we
right.
go.
Now that we talked about cocaine, who wants to go second?
I can go second.
You go second?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just objected to going first.
Sean's like, I can
We
follow
had a-
that up.
we
I
had a
got
Did,
this.
rookie.
did
Yeah.
you take that as an insult?
I just thought we had a
You
structure.
know what? Fine. I'll go next.
I thought we
You're
had
the main
I
event
thought
now,
we
Sean.
had a structure
Sean,
to the show.
you're the main event now. Hey, you want to be the star? We'll put you in the main event. Okay.
Yeah,
What is
you're-
society without rules?
You're the host. You're the host.
Oh,
Give me
come
your
on
list.
now. Come on now. All right. You know what? I'll go second here. So these are, as Sean knows, he is sports entertainment Sean. Tonight is the annual WWE Royal Rumble.
I know.
So
Oh,
these
no,
are-
this is a wrestling list, isn't
No,
it?
well, it's a wrestling theme, but not a wrestling list.
Okay.
So in the Royal Rumble, to advance, you have to throw your competitors over the top rope. So this is a list of things I'd like to metaphorically throw over the top rope and eliminate from my life or society
That's great.
or my working day, whatever it happens to be. Some of these are sports, some of these are individual people, and it goes on from there. Number 1 on the list, batting eye conversation. I hope we could throw batting eye conversation over the top rope and never talk it about again here on Sports Talk
You never
Radio.
talk about it when it's going well.
It's only
2017, 2022 didn't have a lot of batting eye.
No,
talk.
there wasn't a lot of batting eye talk. It's only when you're losing every single important game at home and getting swept by the Royals and the A's. Number 2, first place schedule talk. I look, the Texans have a long offseason in front of them. We're going to hear so much, but they got a first place schedule now. It's going to be so, yes, we know it's harder. Great. Let's find another talking point. Third on the list, this is going into video games. Video game microtransactions, especially with Madden and 2K and all. It just give me the game with especially now. Sometimes people are putting out games now they'll admit right up front, this is not finished, and they'll just keep adding to it with microtransactions.
Yeah, here's $60 worth of DLC content that should have been available day one.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. Third on this list, and this is not necessarily just him, although he has blocked me on Twitter, but more so all the people like him, blame the ref guys and their king, Ben DeBose. I would like to throw over the top rope and never hear from again.
I think you can get him over the rope.
I think I can. He doesn't strike me as a very big guy. And the last one I thought of, because I came into work today and I saw a person doing this for seemingly no reason. And this is even worse when when you're in a crowded parking lot, like at a grocery store or some place where there's not a lot of room or multiple cars coming down the same aisle at the same time. People, when there's a lot of cars and people waiting, you decide to back in.
Yep.
Just pull through or find a spot. It's not that hard to back out of a parking spot, especially when you're in a little sedan.
Yep.
Or
100%
if you're a truck, have the decency to go to the end of the parking lot. You chose to have the truck go to the end of the parking
But
lot.
what happens if you got to leave quick?
What are you, robbing a bank?
You never know.
How
You never
long
know.
does it take to back out of a parking spot?
Longer than it takes to drive straight out of it.
Marginally. So, those are the things I would like to throw over the top rope of life and never hear from again.
That was good. I mean, you won me over with the last one. I cannot stand it.
I cannot stand it. Andrew, you're up next.
Yeah.
Sean, Sean is going last.
Yeah, so Sean's the cleanup hitter. He's
Sean's-
the Jordan Alvarez of this team. Is that what?
He demanded the spotlight. We're
I
going to give
didn't
it to him.
demand it. I didn't. I demanded not first. Is what I demanded. Okay, Andrew, go.
Oh, so now Sean's calling the shots. Now not. I think we have a little.
because I could stammer and complain for a while. I'm cutting myself off.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so B-Mac mentioned this earlier, and it's not as like I had a real plan for Mount Rushmore +1 coming into the show, so I figured I'd fill it out with this as the show went along, and this is phrases I would have used to call someone crazy if they had told me the Texans would be top 10 in Super Bowl odds heading into the 24-25 NFL season. So, the first phrase I would use someone call someone crazy. What are the names of your imaginary friends? I didn't watch Foster's Imaginary Friends growing up, so if one of you guys did and could contribute with some of the names that they used, I think Blue was one of them.
Blue.
I have never even heard of that show.
I don't know. There's one that Wilt Chamberlain's estate could sue because
Okay.
they took a lot of likeness from Wilt Chamberlain.
Number 2 of the phrases I would have used to call someone crazy. You're a few fries short of a Happy Meal, aren't you, Cal? And maybe that's a little shot at Cal McNair getting a Happy Meal, but, just not quite all there.
Thankfully, Hannah, not a few fries short.
Thankfully, Hannah, very sharp. Very, very sharp. Number 3, and this is probably the most important one. What do you lace your weed with? Because, that's something that I personally just need to know so that I can enter whatever state that you are in.
Is that something you asked BK a few times?
No, I think BK is more of a straight shooter. He doesn't strike me as someone who's lacing his things. Number 4, I'm surprised you don't have some squirrels following you around. That's a little.
Yeah. That one's for the family, too.
That's very family friendly. After the weed joke, you got to be family friendly. And then, last but not least, this one's might be even cornier. Give me the lowdown on your next plot to foil the Batman.
In case you're talking to the Joker.
Yes.
Well done.
Very, very corny.
Well done. It's
Very, very corny. There.
That one
corny.
took me a second.
Yeah,
for sure.
It did. Yeah, a little bit. There's a momentary second. There's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm with you now. Sean, main event. Sean Mapes.
The main event.
It's better be
what
good.
you got?
This is my Mount Rushmore +1 of the people that would last the longest in a ESPN 97.5 Royal Rumble.
Oh, sports entertainment, Sean. I knew it.
I came in with this too. This It worked beautifully. It was almost
You're
like
living up to the moniker. Yes. Thank you.
A certain disgraced runner of a wrestling operation would be proud of the storyline that's been built out through this segment. I will not say his name, but you know,
He
Google
who should not be named.
Google
Yes.
Coming in fit, and this will be in order of.
Okay.
There will be a
order of
champion
elimination.
last. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Paul Gallant. I can see lasting
you're
a
gonna
while.
have some words.
I can see Paul Gallant lasting a while until he gets thrown over the top rope by Josh Beard, because Josh Beard has a reason to be upset at Paul Gallant. Andrew, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
Paul Gallant assaulted Josh Beard.
Wait, hold on. I'm hearing the story for this
Yes.
first time.
Yes,
He went and scratched him in the eye during a commercial break of the Paul Gallant show.
Paul tried to tip Josh's hat off his head, and in the process, gave him a Draymond Green ring finger straight to the eye as he was trying to flip
Why
off
would
his
you
head.
flip someone's hat coming up? No,
No,
people
it
are
was
listening
going
on the
up.
radio. Okay,
He was going up. He was going up. And
I just did the motion
Okay,
to
okay.
be
I
dramatic.
was like, why would you do it like that?
A cat paw at him. Cat guy, Paul Gallant.
Yeah, cat guy.
So yes, I have Josh Beard. You know, that underlying storyline. I think
And of
Josh
course,
Beard,
their storyline then goes on to WrestleMania.
Of course.
Obviously.
Probably not a headliner though.
No.
Next, I have Andrew Carlson.
Oh.
Josh Beard's disappointed dad, 12-3 on ESPN 97.5, 92.5. This is more of a Josh Beard. I'm not sure about the longevity and the
Stamina.
health aspect of
Stamina.
The health aspect of
Call him fat.
No, I'm calling him fragile.
He injures himself a lot here,
That's true.
B-Mac.
He does
Yes.
fall down. He does fall down the
so
stairs.
I think physical specimen Andrew Carlson can get one over on him. That is until, and everyone's like, okay, it's going to be Andrew Carlson, the face of
He's
ESPN
going to point to the sign and go to WrestleMania.
The baby face of ESPN 97.5. That's until, oh my God, is that Brian McDonald's music?
With a
I
chair.
threw Andrew out.
Yes, you're throwing Andrew out.
But I'm not winning. Oh, I'm
That-
edge of my seat. I'm number 2. Damn it.
I think the wrestling
Can't win.
know-how.
It's a wrestling thing. I can't even win it.
The wrestling know-how.
Wait, can we put a bet on who we think is going to be at the top of the list?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Littlefinger lands their line.
Close.
John Granado.
No.
I'm gonna say Booker.
Oh well, that
should have been the answer.
That should have been.
the answer.
You know what? You know what? Kind of, man. Okay. Should have been the answer. Should have been the answer.
But throwing me out of the over the top rope
And
is
getting to main is it's the winner gets
the winner
main
gets
event.
to go to
Oh, gets to go to
the main
WrestleMania?
event. Yeah.
Joel Blank.
Oh,
Joel Blank.
Okay.
I think he can last a long time at
Stunner.
the Royal Rumble. I also just the eye of the tiger, the heart of a champion. There's no B-Mac's going to be playing to the crowd, you know, woo! I threw out Andrew, and that's when, oh my God, and then maybe the ref starts looking away, and then I think
Man,
I'm
Joel
giving it to
eliminates
Joel
me.
Blank.
I'm laying on the outside, disappointed.
staring at the
Seeing my
ceiling.
moment I was this close for main eventing WrestleMania, and
it would've been
Joel
such
Blank
a-
steals it
It
from
would have
me.
been such a Cinderella story too. Just all that you've been through, I'm making up right now.
Man.
and yeah.
I'm gonna have words with Joel next
But
time I
sometimes
see
you
him.
gotta subvert what the fan wants, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's
If I've learned
good.
anything from a disgraced WWE former commissioner.
Mount Rushmore +1. Most people are most likely to hang out with a former disgraced. No, never mind. All right, that'll do it for Mount Rushmore +1 this week. We will, of course, bring that back next week and every week. But we got one more segment left in the show before we got to end it for this week, and we will get to our worst people in sports this week and what we love from sports this week when the Bullpen returns on ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5.
This is the Bullpen, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here are the producers of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Welcome back in. One final segment of the Bullpen, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. Sean Mapes, Andrew Carlson, Brian McDonald, and John Belmer here with you. And we're going to finish the show this week, as we do every week, with our worst people in sports and what we loved in sports this week. But first, we start with the Anger Sharks. The worst person in sports this week for you, Sean, is?
Karl Anthony Towns, for scoring 62 points in a game and somehow making that an embarrassing moment of your career, getting called out by name by your coach in the post-game press conference after you lose to the Charlotte Hornets while you score 62 points. And then, not only on that same night do you have Joel Embiid go for 70, and then 4 days later you have Luka Doncic also go for 73, and you have Devin Booker go for 62. So now he is now the worst possible 62-point game you can have, because not only does it get immediately overshadowed, but before it got overshadowed, you also got dunked on by your coach.
Especially when you look at the
and you lost to a terrible team.
A team the Rockets just beat by 20 plus. I mean, you look at the scoring breakdown. It was like, I can't remember exactly how much he scored in each of the first three quarters, but the fourth quarter, 4 points.
Yeah, he had like 50 in the first half.
Yeah, unbelievable. You mentioned my worst person in sports this week, Luka. Not for the 73-point game, obviously. No. He pretty good the other night. But earlier in the week, he got a fan ejected, and then in this audio you're going to hear right now, had a back and forth with reporter Tim McMahon arguing about, I guess, the validity of ejecting said fan.
I'm not going to say what he said, but I knew you were going to be the first one to put out something like that, so I just saw it, man. It's just funny. You always seem to be the first one to put some bad stuff about me.
First of all, 99% of the stuff I've written about you has been good.
I don't know.
I was sitting 2 rows behind us.
All right, so it was the only thing that time he said something, the only thing?
That was what you reacted to.
Yeah, I was hearing the whole first half, right? Oh, you didn't hear anything?
He was definitely hollering.
Okay, there we go. But you put out something that was just the only thing. But
what was the final straw? What was the issue? What was the thing that...
It's not the issue. I'm just seeing you seems to be the first one to always put something bad about me.
Several of us actually tweeted that.
That's fine. It's all over.
Why did you ask for the fan to be ejected?
Because he was cursing me the whole first half, too.
Little baby Luka there. It's you and Paul talked about this the day after, just like kind of the plague of NBA players trying to kick out fans anytime they yell at them, but then to argue with the reporter who clearly was sitting in an area where he could have heard the interactions, like, oh no, you didn't hear this, you just hate me and write a lot of negative stuff about me. Luka has to be the worst person in sports.
It was also as they were getting blown out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if the Mavericks had blown out the Suns, this wouldn't be happening. He wouldn't care about the guys shouting about treadmills in the fourth quarter. Andrew, who is your worst person in sports this week?
My worst person in sports this week is Josh Beard.
Whoa!
And this might be a little bit of friendly fire
violence
here. And I would play the audio, but he fixes his mistake too quickly for me to want to play the audio. So he said he wanted the Rockets to trade for, wait for it, Miles Bridges.
Oh, so he's a fan of domestic violence.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are super familiar with the actions of one Miles Bridges, but let's just say,
not a great guy.
Not the kind of person you want on your.
Would you say he's a worse person than Mikal Bridges?
Yes, I would say that he's a worse person than Mikal Bridges, and Josh thought that Mikal Bridges was actually Miles Bridges.
Oh, okay. So he's not Art Briles' Beard. He just made a mistake.
He just made a mistake, but
doesn't know ball beard.
Yes,
yes. Exactly.
But the fact that he said he wanted the Rockets to trade for Miles Bridges was enough for me to put him on as my worst person.
You got your revenge on him because you beat him in my hypothetical
Royal
Rumble.
Exactly. Who's winning?
Well,
at the
now we have to have the rubber match.
Yeah.
It's 1-1. We got to have the return match. All right, enough with the anger sharks. Time to doggy paddle over to the Sea of Tranquility and talk about what we love from sports this week to close out the show. Sean, what did you love in sports this week?
There's a lot of talk about Littlefinger Lance on the station this week. Not enough talk for my liking of Littlefinger Doc Rivers and how he more or less snaked his way into the Bucks job, being a advisor to the coach that then got fired and he replaced. And here is Mike Breen talking about Doc Rivers leaving ABC for the Bucks job.
And good evening, everyone. Along with Doris Burke, Mike Breen on hand, Cassidy Hubbard with us as well. First order of business is who's available tonight. For Dallas, Kyrie Irving is out. For Phoenix, Eric Gordon is out. For ABC, ESPN, Doc Rivers is out. Our dear friend has decided that life as an NBA broadcaster is way too stressful, so he's decided to opt for a less stressful job, an NBA head coach on a team that's trying to win a championship. We thank him for all his many weeks of service, and we wish him all the luck in the world.
Many weeks of
The
service.
many weeks of service.
I like
is the
that.
best part.
Yeah, that was a good.
Well done by Mike Breen.
Yeah, that was a good bit of humor there from Mike Breen. And he got it in 30 seconds too. Like that's a TV professional. Yeah. You get the digs in and the news inside of 30 seconds.
Slipped in there that Kyrie Irving was out.
Yeah, exactly. You got NBA news in. We're talking transactions. We're taking shots at Doc Rivers. We're talking about coaching moves. 30 seconds. He got it in. Longer or shorter than the time it took me to talk about said work for Mike Breen. The thing I love from sports this week, look, anytime we can dunk on Skip Bayless, it's fun because he's the kind of the clown of what we do. And Jared Goff did not miss his opportunity to take a shot when asked about he was on a Detroit radio show. I believe it was the Ticket up in Detroit. He was asked about bulletin board material, if he paid attention to it, and this is the response Jared Goff gave.
Hey, does bulletin board material matter to you guys at all?
It depends what it is. What do you got?
Skip Bayless, after your game, tweeted out the
No,
following.
I don't care about anything he says. You can stop now. That's
I love it.
no. Yeah.
No oxygen. No oxygen.
Yeah, no. Anything those guys say on daytime TV, you can skip over that.
Daytime TV
Damn,
blast.
This came for everybody.
I know, man.
Came for The View. Came for
Judge Judy, probably. I don't know. He came for
Wendy Williams.
All My Children, all the soaps. He came
Kelly
for
Clarkson. Yeah, we don't care about what you have to say.
Jared Goff didn't have time for any of them. So that is what I love from sports this week. Andrew, I hate you for this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What'd you love from sports this week?
So, the University of Houston played at BYU at Provo, and I was really impressed by their home crowd. They had wacky, waving, inflatable tube men to distract free throw shooters. The environment seemed awesome. And, it was really enjoyable to watch. But what was even better, we have the Texas BYU game in the studio. And, look, the crowd might have been good for that UH-BYU matchup. But let me tell you, when I saw the BYU student hold up the Taysom owns Texas sign, I was like, I need to scrap whatever I have in the things we loved section and put the BYU crowd in there, because to pull that out after all these years, that student probably
that kid was 5 years old.
What makes it worse is you saw my reaction. It still hurt. I don't know how long it's been, but it still hurt.
Classless, if you ask me.
Provo, Utah, get bodied.
Keep killing it, Provo.
All right, that'll do it for the Bullpen, ESPN Radio 97.5 and 92.5. Thank you for joining us. For Sean Mapes, for Andrew Carlson, for John Belmer behind the glass, I am Brian McDonald, and we will be back next week.